Hello, this is week 12 of the 13-week fiscal program for American Prisoners of War. You have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator, Chief Blackcoat, Chief Quietwater, as well as Chief Akivalan. And here we focus more so on the first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. I will start today off by reading the 12 steps. And you all just let me know once you're able to see it. Good to go?
Yeah.
Step 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate? Step 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European? Step 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Step 5, they either support it or they don't. No support equals no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Step 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash, spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making our groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971. The Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why the financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step 11, teach your children 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. And D, they should know the nation of people prior to European invasion militarily and culturally. 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause. And before we move on, I definitely want to just ask you all that's on the video, which one of these steps kind of sticks out to you that we kind of read, pretty much on a weekly basis. I've been reading them for about a year now. Which one sticks to you? You all can go in any particular order.
I think
the American.
Go ahead, Chief.
I was going to say
Your phone is breaking up. You're breaking up.
Or I need to say of using quantitative tightening.
Yeah, we didn't get that, boss.
Or the sheep, keep it on.
I'll go ahead, but no, the one that sticks out to me the most is avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people. Pretty much bringing the system down from the inside, anything around you, spending money with your people only. It's kind of how every other group works anyway with each other. We're the only group that kind of like freely just give our money away to anybody. Other groups kind of stay at home with it. But yeah, that's the one that sticks out the most to me.
For me, it would be actually number one, the very beginning when we first started, when we had to do the little projects of learning where our family originated from, to debunk the fact that we had to go search back in Africa to find where our lineage came from. So I think number one is most important to me, and then everything else pretty much in the order that it is, that we read every week.
Okay, perfect. Chief Alligator.
Yeah, I would just say for today, today what sticks out to me is number 4. Ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? And I just say that because, again, after 2020, I can no longer go in denial that we're actually living on the back of a dragon. So your NAACP, your urban league, your religious entities, your fraternities, masonry, all of it is clumped up under nonprofit organizations. We as a group of people need to draw a line in the sand. What's your stance on it? If you're not with us being repaired and getting these industries back and everything that comes with it, why we fucking with it? That's what jumps out to me today.
Right. Something that jumped out to me would be 10, especially this week. Just trying to actually get my hands on some actual money, some actual constitutional money. Understanding what the difference is between, a gram of silver, ounce of silver, kilo, these different terms that we hear all the time, and what Chief Alligator likes to say, reality rap, basically gangster rap music, getting a kilo, a brick, things of that nature. They basically talking money, but do they actually understand that those terms are what, money is actually separated in or categorized in? So again, just understanding the difference between, what a minted silver coin is and what just a silver round. One is actually currency, the other is just the actual metal. So again, just kind of comprehending the difference between those. And as we jump into the Constitution, which we read, I want to say it's section 10, in regards to, gold and silver being the only thing payable for debts. So that kind of just stood out to me. And one thing Chief Alligator brought to my attention is probably everybody on this actually video that we've never actually been paid money. None of us. We all haven't been paid money since we've been alive. So again, 1971 is when they actually took out the money. So of course, again, the dollar's backed by nothing but faith, belief, NFTs, cryptocurrency, the same thing. So that kind of just stood out to me and hit home like, damn, I ain't never really been paid money since I've been working. So that kind of just rang home to me. So definitely that. Chief Akibalan, did you want to go again, or are you still having an issue?
Nah, I got it fixed, but that's the same one that I was talking about, was the number 10, because of the fact that what we think is money is not really money. It's something completely made up, and it's not something that has a tangible backing for it. So that's one that stuck out to me too.
Great. Next, we'll have Chief Black Coat with the Inventor for this week.
All right, so we got Miriam E Benjamin. This is an American woman. She is born, let me get to my screen, guys, because I got your screen up.
Oh, my bad.
So I don't actually have her actual birth date here, but she received her patent in 1888 for the Gong and signal chair for hotels. The patent number will be 386289. And the application stated that her chair would reduce the expenses of hotels by decreasing the number of waiters and attendants, to add the convenience of comfort of guests, and to obviate the necessity of hand clapping, or so it's pretty much rid of the necessity of hand clapping and calling out loud to obtain service of pages. So this is Miriam E Benjamin. Let me see if I have her birthday. So I don't have her specific birthday, but she was born in the year 1861. Charleston, South Carolina. So she's from the South. And she moved her family to Boston, Massachusetts in 1873.
I can relate to that one. That sounds like back in my clubbing days, when you go to the bar, only the loudest voice gets heard. You had to be, hey, you got to have your money in your hand, get her attention. So I guess that lady sat down and said, how can we eliminate that? Yeah, let's just make a loud bell. So that's what came to my mind.
Right.
The loudest person gets their order in.
Facts,
but it
facts.
had a light on it, a little signal.
She definitely benefit that. Kind of remind you, like you said earlier, offline with the little
Pay
buzzers
at the
that they give
table.
you.
Oh yeah, the buzzers, right?
Kind of
You
ring
know.
off whenever your table's ready or something like that. Okay, okay. Next we'll have Chief Alligator with the Dr. Woodson quote.
Let me unmute myself. All right, I'm just gonna do number 11 from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Number 11 says, our advanced teachers, like most highly educated Negroes, pay little attention to the things about them except when the shoe begins to pinch on one or the other side. Unless they happen to become naked, they never think of the production of cotton or wool. Unless they get hungry, they never give any thought to the output of wheat or corn. Unless their friends lose their job, they never inquire about the outlook for coal or steel, or how these things affect the children whom they are trying to teach. In other words, they live in a world, but they are not of it. How can such persons guide the youth without knowing how things affect the Negro community? That just speaks volumes to me today. Again, we're in that after 2020 reality, and you see our children selling water, the unemployment. You just see how many of our group are just unskilled. And I'm saying this from a middle-aged man point of view. We just have unskilled youth, and it's showing right now. We're living out of Uber and all these different things. Kudos that came about, but I think this pandemic is really exposing. It's like 2 generations of just unskilled young men. Like, you put the cell phone down, what can you do? What can you actually do in society? And that goes to, unfortunately, the people who are charged with educating us. More focused on your salary, where you club at, where you socialize at, what you driving, where your house is located, more so than actually giving back and pouring into the next generation. That's what I take from that one. Anybody else want to build on that real quick?
No, that was a great one. That one hit. We read those many times, but that one hit a little different because you're now seeing us become we're hearing him watch our group become dependent. He's saying, until you get hungry, you're not thinking about going to plant them crops. You're already working on this other system where he's watching our people be defeated, no longer have a drive to do anything, just want things easy. So yeah, you're seeing it today, like you said, Uber. Shout out to Uber and Lyft, but now we're watching our people just pretty much no skill. You just go, do, don't think, and yeah, that's not good.
For sure. I just add, basically, like you stated, seeing the water boys out in the summer, seeing them,
Year
all over
round.
the city. And it's like, damn, we don't even have, any type of summer activities for them to even be in, to learn said skill, to actually be able to make themselves some real money, instead of, being out there trying to beg and bargain. Definitely is reminiscent of, like, say, I'm not sure if anybody went to Bahamas or anything. Well, as soon as you get off, like, say you went on a cruise, as soon as you got to get off that port, you're going through like shops and you see like people on the street just trying to, hey man, buy water, buy this thing 2 for $5 or something like that. And it's kind of like, damn, our people look like these quote unquote third world countries.
Survivors.
Survivors, because they don't have skills, they're not being taught anything. So
right.
Like you said, when you have these people who are just looking at the symptoms of that, as far as these highly educated people seeing these symptoms, they're like, oh, well, we just got to get them off the street, instead of saying into prisons or jail.
Right,
Instead of saying
exactly.
that,
Where the
let's
skills
say, okay,
at?
let's get them in some community activities, teach them some skills so they can utilize that.
And the good thing about it, I think, just shining a positive light on it, it is unfortunate that they are on the corners, that it has come to that. But the fact that, like you said, if there were programs for them. Just the fact that they're trying to do it the honest way. It's not like they resorted to selling drugs or robbing and stealing and things like that. So they have the mentality. There's just no programs that are willing to no structure.
I think about them all the time. Not even when I actually see them, just all the time I'm thinking about them. Like, wow, we have children on the roads, in between cars. That's how serious this
dangerous,
money is.
right?
It's very dangerous.
Busy.
And they have to do it. Trust me, they won't be out there if they have to do that.
Exactly. They rather be at home playing a video game or something. Or
they have to do that.
Being a kid. But like you said, they have to do that. And it's funny because I never see any Hispanic children, Asian children, white children, even in their own communities. Like we can go to each spot of the metro Atlanta area that wherever you never see their kids out there at all. So it's like, damn, what are we doing? Chief Keybon, any thoughts on that?
I'm really just in agreement to what everyone said, because being the fact that it's a skillless generation, that's kind of just like defeating people before they even get to the chance of making a difference in the community. Like as a kid, that's when you're supposed to learn. Over time, you just gain little skills and you see the things that you're going to be good at or that you're going to hone into. And seeing that a lot of kids are just seeing the dollar sign now versus actual value in themselves is it's kind of weird, really, because it's not showing. To me, it just looks like they're just trying to find a quick way to fix some things instead of looking at longevity plays. Correct. Also, it's like circumstances that we go through.
Kind of broke up again, but definitely just not having that foresight and not having anybody in place to kind of give them that foresight. So definitely agree with that. We'll jump to the Maroon historical points and legal definitions by Chief Quietwater.
Okay, so I'll start with the legal definitions. Number 1, American, a native of America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, an institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education and enlightening experience. And then the Maroon historical points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, Maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number 5, Maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans.
Thank you, Chief Quietwater. Next, we'll jump into the Constitution before we get into the new and latest treaty. So of course, we always start at Article 1, Section 10. This is kind of what I was piggybacking off of, just going to piggyback off of number 10 in our steps. So Section 10, number 10, running parallel with each other. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, as we always read each week, the money was taken out of the system. The money was taken out of this whole US government system. And once that happens, then it's kind of like this whole Constitution is pretty much a void in itself, because they aren't even abiding by their own currency system. So again, just kind of understanding that we're in this make-believe world, playing with these, paper IOU notes, now trying to transition to these, non-fungible tokens, basically virtual currency. If you play 2K, you know what the hell that is. Let me get some VC to upgrade my player. That's exactly where we're heading to right now underneath this current system. So just want to make sure we're currently, beating that into the head of the viewer and making them understand that. Like,
if I could add
just
in there real
go
quick
ahead
on that Section 10, if you could just go back real quick. just to be clear, this Constitution was written in 1776 and they voted on it in 1789. And that first sentence says, "Do not enter any treaty, alliance, or confederation." So this is before the Civil Rebellion. So this is more evidence that the American government was confederacies. I just want to interject that. The Constitution was written over 100 years before the Civil Rebellion. They already knew that their government and the states within their government could not go into a de jure form of government on this land, which was confederacy.
Correct. And kind of just to piggyback off of that, they weren't even able to grant letters of marque and reprisal, which is basically letters of combat. So when we say that, or when history or US history, schooling, brainwashing says the states, seceded and created this confederation, one, as Chief Alligator pointed out, they couldn't do that per their constitution. And also they couldn't even declare battle because no state shall grant letters of marque or reprisal. So as you can see, they're just contradicting every goddamn thing that they done wrote within the Constitution. So
it almost sounds like, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chief.
No, go ahead.
It almost sounds like we read it every week, so I'm just still digesting it as far as how this is actual legal document if there's no money.
Correct.
What are you protecting? How are you backing anything with no money? You're just writing stuff down.
Correct.
That's the Rosetta Stone, Chief Blackcoat.
Paper warriors.
Why are we letting these people oppress us? There is no money. There it is. Poof.
You're
broke. But you have guns. The only thing is we're
military.
Facts. They make us.
And this is the story. This is your allegory. So if you live here on the land, believe this, or but
face this. No,
it
right
every week we're reading it, and I've been waiting for it to make all of it like, okay, oh, this is just la.
What is it? It sounds like what? Military occupation. Either you're gonna get with the program, or get down.
It sounds like a different version of the Bible. But we don't read this one that much.
Facts. We'll jump on down here to Article 6. And Article 6 here states the Constitution, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So again, just saying that this treaty is the supreme law of the land. But again, as Chief Blackcoat stated, what is there to even have a contract with is there's no consideration. Consideration would be basically payment or any type of money. So it's like, how can this be a legal contract if there's no consideration, no exchange of value? So again, just highlighting the hypocrisy of this government here. Number 4, we always gotta look at the militia and who has control over it. Section 2, Article 2, the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states. So again, the president has not only has control of the Army and Navy, but also of the militia of the several states, which we saw highlighted as well during 2020, when people were just getting, throwing the bans. You had the, I forget what they call it, the Patriots or these other type of militia groups coming out of the woodworks. They were called upon by one person, and that person is the president, also known as the commander-in-chief. So just kind of understanding the rules of the game, that way we can make sure we set up ourselves for the best position to win the game and ultimately get out of it.
And then just going back here, like whatever they called it, Patriots. It was Militia District 32, whatever. Whoever had a gun.
Facts. All right, so let me see. I think this is going to be fine. Okay. So just kind of recap of where we started. We started off with the Emancipation Proclamation, January 1st, 1863. Nothing specific to our group of people. Jumped into Amendment 13 that was ratified January 31st, 1865. Again, nothing specific to our group of people. We jump again forward to Special Field Order number 15. A lot of people like to refer back to this document as something that's being specific to us, which it was. But again, as I like to say, this came from like a customer service rep, but not the actual CEO, not the manager, which would have been the president, commander in chief. So we can't even hold on to any information that was given in this one. Jump over to the Freedmen's Bureau, nothing specific. Amnesty Proclamation, nothing specific. And we just finished off the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which had nothing specific for our group of people. And of course, the 14th and 15th Amendment did not as well. So what we'll be doing today is jumping into the Indian Treaty of 1866. And this one was ratified June 28th of 1866. So we'll be reading to see if there's anything specific to our group of people within this one. So any questions or any thoughts? Let me see. And can you all see the treaty? I'm not sure if it's still showing the American history readings.
Yes, I can
Good,
see
okay.
it.
All right, I'll go ahead and start off here. A treaty with Choctaw and Chickasaw, 1866, April 28th, 1866, 14 stats, 769, ratified June 28th, 1866, proclaimed July 10th, 1866. Indian Affairs, Laws and Treaties, Volume 2, compiled and edited by Charles J. Kapler, Washington Government Printing Office, 1904. Articles of Agreement and Convention between the United States and the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nations of Americans, made and concluded at the city of Washington, the 28th day of April in the year 1866, by Dennis N. Cooley, Elijah Sells, E.S. Parker, Special Commissioners on the part of the United States, and Alfred Wade Allen Wright, James Riley, John Page, Commissioners on the part of the Choctaws, and Winchester Colbert, Edmund Pickens, Holmes Colbert, Colbert Carter, and Robert H. Love, Commissioners on part of the Chickasaws. So just right in there, we see that this treaty reads much different from those earlier treaties that we read when there were pretty much nobody who could be found that would represent the United States. So we can kind of see here, the United States has their commissioners here, which would be Dennis Cooley, Elijah Sells, and E.S. Parker. And also these nations have their commissioners respectively as well. So right off the bat, definitely different language than we've seen before prior to, I believe, that last treaty that we read. Article 1, permanent peace and friendship are hereby established between the United States and said nations, and the Choctaws and Chickasaws do hereby bind themselves respectively to use their influence and to make every exertion to induce Americans on the plains to maintain peaceful relations with each other, with other Americans, and with the United States. So right here, just saying that there has to be pretty much a peace among all of the nations within the American territory, or quote unquote Indian territory that was carved out for them, and that they are responsible for keeping that peace amongst the different nations and tribes, as well as the any United States citizens or any type of military that might be surrounding their areas, which we've seen in prior pictures, how they had forts pretty much lined up all around the American territory that they were given. Any questions or anything like that thus far?
Yeah, this sounds like a setup clause to me in Article 1, because the United States is going to hold the Choctaw and Chickasaw. They're going to bind themselves respectively to use their influence to make every assertion to induce Americans of the plains. So to me, that's like the Europeans telling them, all right, we coming west of the Mississippi. We didn't know anything was west of the Mississippi. We're going to hold y'all liable if we bump heads with other Americans west of this Mississippi. They're going to come back to these two nations And be like,
Mm.
look, you were supposed to induce them. That's what I'm taking from that. It's almost like they're setting them up, like they got them in checkmate, just in case anything happens as they go west. But I like to hear what everybody else got to say on that.
I can definitely see that because before we got to Article 1, we're looking at the commissioners for the Choctaw or Chickasaw tribe, and it looks like agents coming from the United States government. So you can see them, expecting whatever happens over there. We're just gonna drop it off on the tribe. Oh, that commissioner over there. You can see that play being set up.
I agree. It does look like it's a setup. I'm in agreement with both of you. The way
It's like
that it
another one of
reads.
those little tricks. It's just hidden.
Right. We're not
Mhm.
It
necessarily.
sounds good on paper, but it seems like they have something else down the line that
Right.
they're trying to
Right.
do or have plans to do if something goes south.
Or they just don't know, and they're just kind of
Something
saving their
short.
asses beforehand.
Yeah, I think that too. Yeah, they kind of have a foresight. I know there's stuff still west of this Mississippi that we haven't, excavated or
Mhm.
marked. So let's go ahead and make sure we right off the bat, we put a clause in that way. Anything that we do find, any type of, other actual Americans we might run into outside of, these nations that we've, captured in this area, we're going to hold you all accountable. So you better talk to your boys. That's going to be y'all last pretty much. So definitely in alignment with that. Article 2, the Choctaws and Chickasaws hereby covenant and agree that henceforth neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, otherwise than in punishment of crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted in accordance with laws applicable to all members of the particular nation, shall ever exist in said nations. So it's here is there. This just shows that these nations are now coming up under the United States government system and their laws. Because I thought they were supposed to be separate, have their own thing. Look, y'all just move over here, run your own government, your own type of, pretty much government and systems that you want to, just leave us alone. But here, they're saying that they have to pretty much align themselves with what was written in the 13th Amendment. So this is what I'm getting from Article 2. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Historically, there was no prisons on this land. We read that in a previous document where it talked about the white slaves on the document coming out the Library of Congress. We have to understand that this criminal system that we currently live under the United States government, that was a system that came from Europe. Locking people in dungeons in the bottom of the churches, or, locking people, America didn't have prison systems. And I remember that one passage in that document we read as they were coming over here to America. It clearly said that America was against criminals. So this idea of prison didn't exist until the European came over here and set up his government. And I agree with you. It's like they're forcing the Choctaw and Chickasaw to participate with slavery. Yeah, because you can't say that you got your own nation, but then, hey, we're telling you, if somebody commit a crime, you can't cut off their hand like the old way on the other side of the globe. Nah, you're going to have to enslave them.
Correct.
I agree with both of y'all. It's the same thing. It's literally just the same bait and switch. Like, this doesn't exist, but it exists if you do X, Y, and Z.
Correct. Again, like you said, another clause to continue the slavery, pretty much. Article 3, the Choctaws and Chickasaws, in consideration of the sum of $300,000, hereby cede to the United States the territory west of the 98° west longitude, known as the leased district, provided that the said sum shall be invested and held by the United States and at an interest not less than 5%. I'll stop right here. So it looks like,
Wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they say that they're gonna give these nations this money, but say we're gonna keep it for you just in case, but there's no insurance? I mean, there's no interest.
same such as like said some shall be interest. Yeah. That's what it sounds like, but it sounds like they will be getting interest on this sum. So for the land, again, west of wherever this territory is, 98 degrees west longitude, that the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nation will be given $300,000. But again, like you said, the chief of keep in line, we'll keep it, as the United States is saying, we'll keep those funds, and they'll accumulate interest no less than 5%. So whatever interest is going to be accumulated, it won't be less than 5%. So they basically have like a guaranteed interest rate. So anything, it will never be below 5%. So it can be 10%, 12%, or 50%, but it will never get below 5%. Is what I'm reading from this this first little section here.
Let me add one thing in there, because this is a bit, this is a business deal.
Mhm.
How was the $300,000 paid?
Let's say right now, in consideration of the sum of
Good question.
$300,000. Guess dollars. 'Cause
No.
it's not gold.
That's why I asked that question. Remember, they set up their constitution in 1776.
Mhm.
The only thing that can pay for something is gold and silver.
Correct.
So in this deal, the Choctaws and Chickasaws got gold or silver to give up that land. Are you following me? That's
Okay.
the only thing that's money. Yeah, you're dealing with the real lords of the land.
Yeah.
So this is a good transaction for us to understand. Yeah, they say dollars, but yeah, no, the United States government had to give up gold or silver.
Because it's backed by that.
Yeah, because you're dealing with this, you're American, so you can't give me a piece of paper.
Makes sense.
With me?
Makes sense. Makes sense. And again, that consideration part, that's any type of legal contract you have to have. I want to say 5 key points. You have to have the acceptance, consideration, and then there's like an offer, and then like 2 other points. So that's why I was getting kind of back to when we read that section 2, basically again saying, you know, nothing can be payable for debt except for gold and silver. Well, if that's out of the whole US government system, then every legal contract will be void because it's not backed by any actual money. So again, that's that consideration part of any type of legal contract.
That's what you just give debt from.
Let me add one, because we didn't go over this. Let me add one thing in. The currency has collapsed multiple times under this government.
Right.
The paper currency.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying you got to look at the transaction went in gold and silver. Like they had greenbacks at one time. During this time period, they were using greenbacks. That government went bankrupt, and then they came out with Federal Reserve notes. So they weren't always dealing in what we deal in today.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like they keep the gold and the silver stashed away, and they just create new IOU notes.
Right. Would you say they had bad treasurers just throughout history of this government? You just continue to keep going bankrupt.
Well, this war in particular, this Seminole War, this was the most expensive war in the United States government history. This Seminole War literally collapsed that republic. Because they were using a different currency during. We didn't get into the history of the money, but that's one of the reasons I brought that up. Yeah, this thing keeps resetting. Like right now, we're in a reset.
Yeah,
a lot of us don't. Yeah, this thing keeps going bankrupt.
And it's kind of even aligns with the reclassification. Like you said, they called it what? Greenbacks at one point. Okay, we got to come up with something else. Federal Reserve notes. Okay, we got to come up with something else. Debit credit cards. Okay, we got to come up with something else. Cryptocurrency. So again, like you said, it's just the constant rhythm of history based off of the U.S.
And that plays a huge part in the reclassification of just the bodies, the Americans. Now in this Negro world, ATM debit card, and that was a powerful. You shared something with that whole. I think the movie called Us, when he said, "Let me go to the ATM," and he screamed, "Ah!"
Yeah, like what's that?
Not even that. It scared him because that's the European, and that's his inside. Like, we don't do that. But no, that part was powerful.
And it's also like from this point, or even before this point, it's just like the U.S. government has just been drowning and trying to stay afloat this whole time, trying to suppress what's real from what this narrative that they want everyone to go by.
Mhm.
And by any means necessary, they've been able to do that. However, it looks to them, you know, to reclassify, to you know, taking the gold, the real money off the gold standard and things of that nature. So it's like they've been drowning forever, well, almost drowning forever. And it won't take much for us to come together to move this thing forward.
Yeah, and they did it in
Um,
1933, just to add on to what Chief Quietwater said. 1933, Roosevelt took the gold from his citizens. Our people weren't citizens of that government, but they took the gold.
Mm.
Yeah, they confiscated all the gold from their citizens. So there's another time they went bankrupt because that's what they refer to as the Great Depression. But that was their Great Depression. We weren't citizens of that government.
You were booming.
And so then you fast forward to 1971, that was another time it collapsed. And it was like, all right, we got to take the gold away from the money. So yeah, like Chief Quietwater said, they've been operating in the red since they got here.
Facts.
And just to add on to what Chief Quietwater was saying, to me, it just sounds like they can hold their breath for a very long time. There is no, because you're not,
You're not getting out of this.
it's still
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
You're just holding your breath.
And like you said, it goes back, they're just hoping and praying that their citizens never wake up.
That's why they want to invite everybody else to the American dream.
Correct. Look, come over here. We're giving money to everybody.
Don't worry about those niggers. Yeah,
We ain't
they've
got
been
shit
here.
to give these folks. We ain't got
It's-
a dime.
Hey,
we
shout,
gonna
out
print
to,
something.
shout out to the university about to store some Ukrainians.
So it's like they just hoping people don't wake up and realize that, yeah, there is no money. So we'll continue here in trust for the said nations until the said nations, until the legislatures of the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations respectively shall have made such laws, rules, and regulations as may be necessary to give all persons of African descent resident in the said nation at the date of the Treaty of Fort Smith. So I'm gonna read this because I think it's all the way through. Knowing that the least district provided that the said sum shall be invested and held by the United States at an interest not less than 5% in the trust for the said nations, until the legislatures of the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations respectively shall have made such laws, rules, and regulations as may be necessary to give all persons of African descent in resident in the said nation at the date of the Treaty of Fort Smith. So I'll stop here and right off the bat, African descent. Have not seen this term used in any of the prior documents that we've read thus far. Even going back to Treaty of Payne's Landing, Moultrie Creek, American Removal Act. Never have we seen, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, seen African descent be used. So this is the first time, and again, even moving up, nothing in the 13th and 15th Amendment, Freedmen's Bureau, Amnesty Proclamation, Civil Rights Act, nothing close to African descent. Barely saw Negroes, and the only time we saw that was in that special field order number 15, Negroes and Blacks. So the African descent, who are these people? I just want to get you all's thoughts on seeing this, and if you've seen this in any of the documents we've read thus far.
I'll deconstruct a little bit. Go up a little bit where it says that first sentence where it says in trust for said nations. So what the European is saying is we're going to hold that $300,000 that you gave us in gold and said we're going to hold that in trust until you get your shit set up, until said nations, the next sentence, until the legislatures of the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations respectively shall have made such laws, rules, and regulations as may be necessary to give all persons of African descent residents in the said nations. Sounds like a setup to me. That's the first thing. They're holding it in trust. The second thing is the Choctaw and Chickasaw are individual nations that were part of importing and exporting Africans. To go back to what you said, this is the first time we've seen that word African descent. So clearly they were importing people with African descent into their nation. So the European is saying, we're going to hold the 300,000 in gold and silver that you gave us for this land, 98° west longitude. We're going to hold it till you get your shit together and get everything set up. And once you show us that you're going to give them residence under your nation, then we'll start giving you the 5% interest off that money that we're holding. I'll stop right there.
And just to add to, that's all I was gonna say, yeah, now it sounds like a different document that we're not reading, where boats are coming in of people with African descent. So again, they're just being, submissive and writing down, jot down everything. Now we're watching history play itself out, 1866. Now we're seeing first documentation of people with African descent. We already done figured out the American side. Now we're, some Africans over here. Okay.
What it highlights to me is too that the European accounts for everything. So they're specifically accounting for people of African descent. So they know they have records of Africans that were brought over here. Because again, it's highlighting to me that the Negroes and Blacks that we read in Special Field Order weren't Africans, because if that's the case, they would have called them Africans. So who are these people of African descent? What they're saying, like Chief Alligator alluded to, they were in the trade or that slave trade market, the Choctaws and Chickasaws. So they're saying that any persons with that African descent shall again be considered a resident underneath their nation.
Chief Quietwater, Chief of Keebalon, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm in agreement to everybody, so I don't have nothing to add.
Me either. You guys pretty much hit it on the nail.
Go ahead and pick up here. And their descendants heretofore held in slavery among said nations, all the rights, privileges, and immunities, including the right of suffrage of citizens of said nations, except in the annuities, monies, and public domain claimed by or belonging to said nations respectively. So again, it's showing that they should have all the rights to the citizens except for any type of money that would be given to them, that annuities and things that rhymes with the trust. Because I believe in the trust, and it gains, of course, it's accumulating interest at that nothing less than 5%. So it's basically saying like anything that's going to be paid out for the duration of somebody's life, annuities, monies, and public domain claim, they won't be or have access to that. These Africans who will now be considered citizens of their nations.
All right, so what's that little phrase y'all using now? Pushing P. That's the new song. Everybody talking about push. So basically, the Choctaw and Chickasaw, they were pushing P. They were with the human trafficking. That's what we getting from this. They was with the slave trade. They was with that shit. And so now the United States government is holding them liable for that. Like, look, you own that, you trafficking. So you got to straighten them people's kids, and you got to straighten them people that you held in slavery from them nations. So this idea, and I'm glad we're reading this, because the narrative is, all Americans were in slavery. No, we're clearly seeing the two nations that was pushing P, that was human trafficking.
Just going back, they account for everything. So they're specifically targeting these two nations because they're like, okay, y'all are the main components of this shit as far as this, human trafficking that was being conducted on this land by Americans. So here, again, just highlighting it, y'all the two big dogs, so y'all make sure y'all get these people straight. At least give them citizenship. We ain't gonna say what we going, we ain't gonna tell y'all what to do with the money as far as anything paid out. Well, actually, we are. They not gonna have any type of claim to that. So y'all just make sure they straight, and then have them work and do whatever y'all want to outside of that.
Let me ask y'all a question on here. Anybody's bloodline go back to Choctaw or Chickasaw on this channel?
Nah. Not mine.
Not on our side that I know of.
Chief Whitewater, Chief of Keebalon.
Can you repeat that? My connection was lost for a quick second.
No, I didn't hear you either.
Has anybody's bloodline based on what we did in the beginning, does anybody's bloodline go back to Choctaws and Chickasaws?
My
Uh,
Choctaw.
Okay. So
I
now
don't
we
remember
know-
using Choctaw.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong, but now we know who was in the human trafficking,
Right.
right? That's all we got introduced to right now in this treaty is who was with the trafficking. That's what it is. Now, this next sentence you finna read is gonna be very interesting.
Respectively, okay. And also to give to such persons who were residents as aforesaid and their descendants 40 acres each of the land of said nations on the same terms as the Choctaws and Chickasaws to be selected on the survey of said land after the Choctaws and Chickasaws and Kansas Americans have made their selections as herein provided. So right here, another 40 acres, 40 acres mentioned. And this
I
is
see
being
what's going on, Dion. Go ahead, go ahead.
specifically to Africans.
Right. I'm
or
not even
people of
worrying about
African descent.
the 40
ahead.
acres. It's just amazing seeing where all this slavery was happening at. Now we're talking about Indian territory, west of the Mississippi.
Mhm.
That's what's sticking out to me. So we read last week that they couldn't infiltrate the South, but now we're seeing the infiltration and the confusion and the gene splicing going on. But now this is powerful.
Great word there too, that gene splicing, because yeah, the amalgamation of people, integration of different quote unquote races.
I'm gonna build on that real quick. That's the third time that we've seen 40 acres.
Mhm.
This is the third document. The first document was the 1866 Civil Rights Act, where the United States government was giving its rebellious peasants that rebelled against them in the Civil War, they were going to give them 40 acres through the War Department. Then we saw Special Order number 15 through General Sherman through the military say that he was going to give 40 acres to the people who enrolled into the military from South Carolina to Florida when we were reading that last week. Now we see this United States government going in a treaty with two nations west of the Mississippi and using the 40 acres language again. So what I'm looking at is this government got his president killed during the Civil Rebellion. Andrew Johnson comes in, they're getting their ass whooped. So they're just making deals that they really can't honor. Yeah, you get 40 acres, you get 40 acres, your group get 40 acres. That's what I'm getting from this. And now they're really making these Choctaw and Chickasaw, they're like, we ain't got enough money to do everything that we said we would do with the Freedmen's Bureau Act and the Special Order number 15. So we're gonna make the Choctaw and Chickasaw liable for any expenses with the people that y'all got to give 40 acres to. Anybody else want to build on that?
I
Really
would
just
like to
giving
say,
empty promises.
right, that's what I was gonna say. It just seems like they're just throwing that 40 acres language out to sound good, knowing that they weren't going to stick to it, and actually give 40 acres of land.
Make believe, like Chief Alligator was saying, they're getting ass whooped. How can we get them off our ass?
It's like a way to surrender without waving the white flag.
Right. Here, write it off. Bankrupt.
No, fast. It just
It's
sounds like
fiat
propaganda.
language, fiat currencies, fiat
Yeah.
contracts.
Correct. All this make believe stuff, and yeah, just sounded like propaganda. Because shit, this 40 acres then rain going for 200 plus years or close to it. So definitely 100 and at least 150, 160 years now. So every time you hear 40 acres, oh yeah, 40 acres in a mule. I'm not sure where the mule came from. Still haven't seen that, but definitely have seen the 40 acres at least. So I guess that mule was just something, hey, y'all throwing that motherfucker too. So it's definitely funny how,
Gotta
like you
shit on
said,
crops.
yeah, each document has alluded to that.
One more thing before we move on. Shout out to the word Kansas, because now we know Kansas is an American name because they're clearly saying Kansas Americans. So that's another thing as we go into the west of the Mississippi, Kansas is a nation of Americans.
They must be kind of civilized too. So they're not just 5 civilized tribes as they like to tell us, or 5 civilized nations. There's multiple hundreds of nations and tribes on this.
They didn't
land.
know.
And this is the first time I've ever seen Kansas used in anything that we've read. So
Again, they pushing more west.
mhm.
A lot of those names of states are actual nations of American, original Americans.
Right. It's
Delaware
always
is one.
right. It's always beautiful to know they truly didn't know. Like reading the documentation, they could only talk about what they could see. And as we go deeper into history, we're starting to migrate Oklahoma. Now we're in Kansas.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, what was going on in Kansas? Slave for real. Sound like slavery. Free labor.
And just throw in what you said, Chief Blackcoat, they were bringing skilled laborers from the Creek Confederacy into Oklahoma. What we see now is they're bringing African slaves into Kansas. They're bringing different people. What goes back to your gender splicing you talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow, this is definitely new. New information for sure.
Right. It's like a real, we all over here thinking.
The fact that they're using Africans and,
Got the
you know, Africans didn't populate the Southeast at all.
Yeah. Great point. Great
Great
point.
point.
They were getting pushed straight into west of the Mississippi into, you know,
Right.
quote unquote Indian territory. Let me see, it made their selections here and provided. And immediately on the enactment of such laws, rules, and regulations, the said sum of $300,000 shall be paid to the said Choctaw and Chickasaw nations in the proportion of 3/4 to the former and 1/4 to the latter. So 3/4 of it shall go to the Choctaw and 1/4 shall go to the Chickasaw. Less sum, less such sum.
Hold on, Chief Nico. Chief Akibalan just mentioned that in the previous reading. How the hell, wait a minute, this is a bad deal. How the hell is the United States government telling these two nations, we're gonna hold the money that we're gonna pay you in trust until you get your shit all the way together, then we'll give you the money? It sounds like a setup, because what if they burn down your tribe and your nation? They never gotta pay you. How are you holding my money for land that you trying to, how you do? I'm supposed to hold my money until, that's backwards.
It's in trust, so they're
That's like
entrusting
somebody
them
getting
to.
food from you and then getting money to buy food from you, and then don't want to give you the money unless you buying food. Like, nah, you gave me this for food, bro. Like, you can't hold someone's money and expect them to act accordingly to what you want them to do with it.
Right. That's what that's what they're trying to make them do.
And even that, 3/4 of it going to the Choctaws and only 1/4 going to the Chickasaw. So I'm not sure, maybe they'll explain why that that split is like that. So let's see.
When you first read it, I was thinking one being bigger than the other nation. That's the only thing I just, probably more bodies. One nation had more bodies.
Possibly, definitely, yeah. One could have been.
That's just another. I feel like that's just another way to stir something up too. Like, let's say they both know that they just got moved from their lands. They end up talking to each other like, "How much y'all get? Oh, we only got 100,000. Dang, well, we got 400,000. All right, well, we need some of what y'all got because we were supposed to get an equal amount."
Like, oh, y'all ain't read the treaty? They said we get 3/4. So again, if we go back up here, they're supposed to maintain peaceful relations. That's gonna be mighty hard to do when motherfuckers ain't getting the same or equal amount. So as you alluded to, that Chief Akibalan, that's already gonna stir up even more issues and more problems within the Indian territory.
This is all just a trick. It's literally just a trick in writing.
Facts.
Like, all right, we're gonna give y'all all of this stuff, but y'all got to do everything that we say. But there's no such thing as slavery, though. We can't enslave you, but y'all got to do everything we say if y'all want what we are promising.
I'm confused on something. This still sounds like a bad deal to me. How are you holding my money for my land? Because the United States government is saying they're holding $300,000 of Choctaw and Chickasaw money, waiting for them to do certain things to give them their money back. What the fuck? Okay.
But while we're holding it, we still gonna be going. We still gonna take
Concentration
whatever
camps.
that longitude, that line is.
Oh, if I
We
got
still
the-
finna.
That's supposed to be even trade. If I got product I'm selling you, you got to give me the money. I give you the product.
Right.
Mhm.
They're saying, here, give me the product, Chief Alligator. Let me hold your product in trust. And then then they putting stipulations on me for my shit. You with me? Am I tripping? Anybody wanna chime in?
Nah, we know.
No.
No, that's
Consequences of
Can you
absolutely
repeat what you
right.
said?
Yeah.
That's absolutely what they put.
Wait, what happened? I didn't hear it.
He was saying, does this sound like a bad deal to us? And he was like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, shit, our folks are, our brothers and cousins, shit, been making bad deals since they came over here and started doing business or signing contracts with the Europeans. So ain't nothing
That's not how
changed.
we did business. It's not our business.
Correct. So I guess we'll stop here. I got it pinpointed, Article 3, 3/4 to and 1/4 to the latter. So we'll pick up here next week. But definitely, I guess anybody want to kind of how they feeling or anything regarding this? Does anything sound like it's relating to us as of yet? We've seen African
Everything-
descents.
Ever since then, every time that we've dealt with these people, they've been giving us fake promises, false promises, empty promises since we met them. So I don't think that we need to put no faith in them anymore. It's obvious they still do the same stuff, just on a wider scale through like media and stuff, but they always give us false promises. So I see that this is not something that's just new. So stop believing in these people.
Disney World. We're all living here. They came over with the pen and paper. They believed in it as the highest law. They write it down, God ordained. And we've been living it ever since.
Yeah, sound like a bad deal, but just like Chief Blackcoat alluded to earlier, yeah, you'll take any deal if for survival. So it's like, look, we'll give you 300,000. We're gonna keep it, but if you don't want to take it, I mean, it's cool. We'll wipe you out anyway.
I'll
But,
supposed to get
you
something
know,
done if you got my money.
Might as well get a little something for it. And like you said, it's a bad deal anyway. So who's to say that they won't do it anyway? But they're like, damn, bro, we
Right.
all
Everybody
our
standing
warriors
around
over there
like,
east of the Mississippi. We ain't got nobody over here because they open it. We know they're east of the Mississippi because General Sherman said we can't fuck with these folks over here in South Carolina through that whole
Right.
border. We gotta leave them folks alone. So they
it
missing
sounds
them,
like
you
they
know.
forced slavery on the African descent. Because if you're holding the money and you want things to get done, where am I getting this work from? Who am I paying?
Where am I getting the
Nobody.
manpower too?
Right.
Like you said, majority of the nation still east of the Mississippi in that 1833, I want to say 1833 treaty with the Creeks or something like that. They said majority of the nation is still east of the Mississippi. So like you said, yeah, they rounded up a few, but hell, we know a lot of them died on the trip on that Trail of Tears going up to Indian Territory. So they probably like, man, we need some fucking manpower. Y'all can give us some of them Africans, man, because we ain't gonna survive. Y'all already done took all our shit and gave us damn smallpox, you nasty fuckers. So it's like, God damn, lend us a hand. So you can kind of see how they kind of even stuck in a tough position too.
Agreed.
Yeah, and whoever's family goes back to west of the Mississippi, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of wars over there as they encroach on those people land, like they said in that treaty, the people in Kansas. And I learned about the Pontiac and all of that Detroit area, what we now know, all of that, those are American names. Those were real nations. And so it's all in our face. They got these brand names on automobiles and stuff, and we don't even realize these are real nations that was in that area at the time. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing play out. But they're talking about Africans at this point, Seminoles, Cherokee. We didn't see anything talking about accounting for Africans in the treaties we read. So now we're learning what two nations was actually importing people from Africa. And it looks like they're revolutionizing it too, because we know the European was sending over their inmates, their indentured servants, right? They just rebelled during the Civil Rebellion. So they're not trying to send more of their peasants over here. It looks like now they're trying to get a new group of people and get some Americans to go along with these African descent slaves. Anybody else, Chief Whitewater?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.